make us free.
The truth will make us free. The truth will make us free. The truth will make us free someday. Oh, deep in my heart.
The papers never got lost, but we didn't go back to them. Well, you know, why don't you go and talk to a civil rights leader, and in order to get to that civil rights leader, you go and see Richard Boone, because he knows all of the civil rights leaders, the national civil rights leaders. And so and his life was all about serving the community at all times. Now, he taught me a lot. I always say that my father, when I sat at my father's feet, he taught me to be so humble. And then when I learned so much from Richard Boone, it was, yeah, you be humble, but be aggressive when it comes to the poor and the underprivileged. And always remember, they are so important. Not just one, but everyone is so important. And so that's what we're working for, all of the people in the community. And that's what I learned most from him.
He was the most fearless person that I've ever seen.
Earlier in his work in the civil rights movement, you saw one single arc, and that arc in his life always moved toward justice.
When I talk about his relationship with the community and the fact that he never gave up on his community, and you shouldn't either. Wow.
Not a meaningless word in an opening prayer, but the order of the day on every legislative agenda. Let us march on ballot boxes until all over Alabama, God's children will be able to vote.
God gave to us, we're gonna let it shine. Oh, God gave to us, we're gonna let it shine. Oh, God.
The papers never got lost, but we didn't go back to them. Why don't you go and talk to a civil rights leader, and in order to get to that civil rights leader, you go and see Richard Boone, because he knows all of the civil rights leaders, the national civil rights leaders. And so what you ask?
My house was a beast, once the Swiss were king. Richard Boone, the grace of God of me. Bill Secretary of the SCLC, that he'll never see. Too many memories, so he'll live forever. What I left with Bill will never perish. What we take for granted, our ancestors cherished. Bled for it, they dead for it. Hard times, no one cares for them, but they bring and bury. We face it bottom, they bearer. And America buried and left the bury. Father time was preparing us, holding us to the deep, never weak. Reverence inheritance, once here on the earth, we inheritance, peace, rest in power, the hour at hand, allowing the child of the dragon, hope to the power, to be empowered. Papa, I hope you proud of me, crown thorns on me proudly, when crucified by the jury in court, I not once cowardly. A coward dies and now there's a soldier dies for once, then resurrects, so this is resurrection. I ain't said it, changed my judge 3 times in the feds. Roman God says be, it just is. So if freedom and what's for me that can't kill, every blessing is still left for me. So this is more than just skill, it's grace. So anytime you say my name, put some respect on me. Welcome to the West, homie, where it's wild in the West. I'm talking wilderness of North America.
Now, he taught me a lot. I always say to my father, when I said at my father's feet, he taught me to be so humble. And then when I learned so much from Richard Boone, it was, yeah, you be humble, but be aggressive when it comes to the poor and the underprivileged. And always remember, they are so important. Not just one, but everyone is so important. And so that's what we're working for, all of the people in the community. And that's what I learned most from him.
He was the most fearless person that I've ever seen.
Earlier in his work in the civil rights movement, you saw one single arc, and that arc in his life always moved toward justice.
Glad to have you on our beautiful, wonderful, historic campus. My name is Dr. Dorothy Autry. I'm Program Chair for the National Center for the Study of Civil Rights and African American Culture at Alabama State University. So, on behalf of Dr. Clinton Ross, our president, I welcome you to our campus. I know you know why you're here. I was thinking of Reverend Boone. I did know him personally in the last days of his life. Reverend Boone was instrumental in helping us get this building on our campus. You might know about 1996, the National Park Service established a voting rights trail for the Selma to Montgomery Voting Rights March. And though they chose 3 counties that the voting rights marches came in 1965, in Dallas County from Selma, they came to Lowndes County, and they came to Montgomery County. So that was competition for what place in Montgomery should be that 3rd interpretive center. They had one in Dallas County, had one in Lowndes County. And so ASU competed with other sites to have ASU designated as a 3rd interpretive center for the Voting Rights March of 1965. So we had history supporting us. We also had Reverend Boone. Reverend Boone, I wish you'd known him. He was the most authentic, one of the most authentic Christians I know, and a very undaunted, courageous voting rights and civil rights fighter. So because he was on our side in proposing that the National Park Service designate ASU as a 3rd interpretive center, we won the right to have this building on our campus. So we welcome you because that ties in with why you're here. Reverend Boone, had not been for him, we might not have this building on our campus. So enjoy the day. And I want to say this one thing. Reverend Boone did more than just escort 800 students from ASU on March 24th, 1965 to where we're going today. His whole life, his adult life, was dedicated to fighting for our rights. He's an unsung hero. And I pray that this day is not just one day, every other year to observe his birthday. I pray that we keep his legacy, which was undaunted courage and conviction for having what is right, for what civil rights means to us today. So God bless you, and please keep his memory, his legacy in place longer than today. God bless you. Welcome. Thank you.
Amen. All right, so we're ready, you all. I don't know what motorcycle riders say, but we're sure are ready to go. And we have a leader here, right?
All right, we're gonna ride stagger too. And like I said, we just go everybody be safe.
Man. The bus is gonna go after you all, right? Yeah. So you all gonna go out, and the bus is gonna follow you.
And where do I fit?
Okay, we're gonna go behind them. Okay, so you let them out, and you follow them because you don't really know the trail.
There's a gentleman by the name of Rev Richard Boone, and Reverend Boone worked with the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. That's Martin Luther King's organization. He was a graduate of Alabama State University, and in the latter part of the 60s, he started another organization called the Alabama Action Committee. And so Reverend Richard Boone worked with us here for a while. He was our liaison into the civil rights community, and so helped us to garner collections. But he was a real important figure in the local civil rights movement. And so he donated his collection to Alabama State. And so we amassed or created an oversized clipping album, because there was a number of newspapers. Part of his organization helped to publish a newspaper. So we have some examples. He was arrested as a result of one of his protest activities. And so the paper, just like you had Free Huey and Free Angela Davis, as it relates to the Black Panther Party, in Montgomery you had Free Reverend Boone. And so he was incarcerated and accused of inciting a riot. And so he eventually was exonerated, but he was a committed civil rights activist. He worked on a number of campaigns for the SCLC throughout the state, and actually went to various different states. But one of the corollary to this artifact is another piece we have here. So while Reverend Boone was incarcerated, he wanted to write his story of his experiences, and he did that on toilet paper. And so you see here, we have that toilet paper, and And we had a master's student who wrote a thesis on Reverend Boone, and she had to roll out this toilet paper, and she translated what it actually says. And so we have that documentation also. But this collection is an interesting collection. It tells the story of the local civil rights movement, but it also connects the local civil rights movement to the larger movement. When you think about these materials, and they really give the blueprint, or provide a blueprint for the civil rights movement and the logistics of the civil rights movement, how it was executed. I'm going to say Reverend Richard, and you're going to say real loud. You're going to say boom. You ready? Are you ready? Yes. Are you sure? Yes. Reverend Richard, boom. That was corny. That was kind of barely here. All y'all folks, let's try it one more time. Reverend Richard, boom. Oh my goodness, I think I heard that one. So Reverend Richard Boone. Okay. So Reverend Richard Boone was part of the civil rights movement. He was a part of what? He was trying to make America respect all people equally, right? So that, what does that mean? That means that people, no matter what color you are, or what race, or what ethnicity, or what religion, or what gender, what do we mean by gender? Male, female, okay? No matter who or what you are, you're going to be treated fairly.
Feeling so much better than before, and what would the youth do?
I guess as ready as I possibly can be.
Well, we want everyone to know that you are feeling so much better than before. And what would you like to tell all the people who have been praying for you?
It is no way that I can thank them for their uplifting and asking God to restore me where I can help, because I feel that my work isn't done yet, even though I might be incarcerated and unable to do any work. I still feel that I can talk with young people, and most of them they come here and I talk with them.
As a matter of fact, we can come to you and hear so many of the uplifting stories that you have to tell, and continue to work as you have worked in the past. Thank you so much, Mother. Thank you so much. You look beautiful, Mrs. Boynton. You look beautiful. Thank you.
They walked from the campus of Alabama State to this site in 1965. Reverend Dixon has already taken his minute and my minute, so I'm going to try not to take it. But the one thing I would like to share with you, that some of us returned to this site after 1965.
That's right.
Now we mentioned about the food stamps, but that was more than, in addition to food stamp, there was a high priority given to housing in our minds. That at that time we had communities like Western Hills, where not only we did not have indoor facilities, in many instances the homes didn't even have flooring. And during this period, we were very fortunate to help establish Gibbs Village, Smiley Court, Highland Village, and on this site, at that time was Young Fort Village and later Pacific Park. So we thank God for sending the Rev Richard Boone our way, and the result of the journey that he took to this community and many others around the world. I can assure you that many of the things that he participated, and not just he participated from the front and not from the back. So we just like to say thanks to the Boone family for sharing your husband, your father, your nephew, cousin, and whatever relation, and to those that have supported him for many years. Thank you.
Remembering Reverend Boone and the work that he's done in this community, I salute him. So grateful for this community standing today, recognizing the work that he has done. Also so grateful for so many people I'm looking in the eyes who continue that work. Talking about it is real cheap, but we roll up our sleeves, and so many I see in this community that continue the work that Reverend Boone started, that the hungry will eat, our children will be able to be educated, and our community will be recognized. And I stand this day with those who continue his work and continue the fight that he's done. The Mercy House is one of the visions I believe that Reverend Boone would have had, that people could eat every day and could wash their clothes and to take hot showers and to get food to take home. These are works that men and women of this community continue to work to cause to be a part in our community. So for that being said, just on a table a few tents away, if you know someone who's hungry and don't have food, they can go over and register and get food in their homes. Children who don't have food to eat every day while school is out, they can go over and they can find what time at the Mercy House each day they can come and get a hot meal. So for that being said, thank you. I salute Reverend Richard Boone for the work that he's done, his legacy. I'm so grateful to be a part of those who continue that work and those of us who talk less.
Amen.
Join him, come along, but he's going to stand up there if he had to stand up there by himself. And that's what you call courageous, doing what you had to do, not because it was popular, but because I take a stand. And I talk to everybody here right now, using this minute wisely. I want to remind everybody, what could I say about Richard Boone in that short moment? When I talk about the courageous man he was, everybody here has something in them that God has put in them. All you have to do is continue to ask God for guidance, and you'll be able to take on some of these fights that face our community right now. I was recently shot myself on this west side of town. This ain't said, but it is. Now look, we don't want to act like we don't know about the shootings. We got all types of problems, but my pappy always told me problems are made to be solved. Now I'm talking to those individuals who have that same kind of heart. The way I would dub Richard Boone, he was a soldier in the army of the Lord. A soldier. I mean, taking on the fight, doing what he had to do, asking God for guidance. There's somebody out here right now. You may not be able to do everything, but you can do something.
know, something about the history. Orange, he's a pastor now. Pastor Orange was put in jail for all the protests that they did. They wanted to the right to vote. He was put in jail, and so the community came out to protest the fact that Orange, Reverend Orange, was put in jail. He was an SCLC pastor. And so in a lot of times, Pastor Orange would lead midnight marches protesting the fact that black people could not vote. So when he was put in jail, and community people came out singing. One of those community people was Jimmy Lee Jackson. Jimmy Lee Jackson was a part of that community, and because police came in to beat and try to make the people stop what they were doing, Jimmy Lee Jackson got in front of one of his parents. Some people say it was his grandmother, some people, but whoever it was one of his parents, his loved ones, and he was shot down. When he was shot, it created outrage, simple outrage in the community. And one of the persons in that protest, or in that church, said, you know, we can't stand this any longer. We don't have the right to vote, and now our people are being shot down. So it's a direct result of Jimmy Lee Jackson being shot down. Reverend Bevel said, we need to take his body to the governor, and we need to put it there so he can see what they are doing to our people. Well, they sang and prayed, and instead of doing that in the church, they decided, well, we're not going to do that. We're going to calm down. Instead of doing that, we are going to meet and we're going to march. And they decided to march in Selma. When they marched in Selma that very first time, there were many people there, many of the community there, and one of those persons included Cheyenne Webb Christburg, Little Cheyenne. They called her the littlest, the smallest civil rights movement person, the littlest marcher there was, but also was Miss Boynton, who had called for Dr. King to come to Selma. And Dr. King sent some of his trusted persons who worked with him. Richard Boone was one of them. And they had direct action. Direct action just means we are going to march peacefully. And so that brings up us to, after the very first march and all those people were beaten on the bridge in Selma, Martin Luther King and SCLC, Dr. Ralph Abernathy, Reverend Hosea Williams. Sometimes we leave Reverend Hosea Williams out of the history, but we shouldn't, because he led many of the marchers. On this march, when they were beaten on the bridge, they tossed a coin to see who would be the person to lead. And of course, Lewis, our own Congressman Lewis, was the one who won the bet, or maybe lost the bet, the way we look at it. But in history, he was the one to lead the march that time. So after the first march, and it was unsuccessful with the beating on the bridge, they decided to come again, to march again. But this time, Dr. King came to town from Atlanta. And when he came to town from Atlanta, they marched and they went down to the bridge. They turned around because he said there will be no more bloodshed. They were going to wait until the attorneys could get in and get an injunction against the Selma policemen who had done the beatings. So the third march. The third march is the one where it was well organized, and in that march, they even had students, and Rev Richard Boone was one of those students who organized, and they had students from Tuskegee, and Rev Boone organized from Montgomery. We're on the trail now. We're on the trail where they would have walked up West Jeff Davis, and on this historic trail here, they would have walked down, and we're going to go all the way down, and we're going to make it through to St. Jude, and I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. State University. The students would have walked from Alabama State University down West Jeff Davis. They're going to get some of the students from Lovelace. We're coming up on Lovelace in just a few minutes. The students from Lovelace are going to come out. There are many. Sometimes you need to come through and read some of the historic markers in this area. As you come down the historic trail, the Selma to Montgomery Historic Trail, we're going reverse. We're reversing. We're going down this trail because the students would have come down this trail. They would have gotten some of the students here. Students from Lovelace would have come and joined the marchers as they made their way around on this historic Selma to Montgomery Trail. Film them from the front. You understand? I was going to have the kids, but not yet.